Welcome to Cigarers, the YouTube channel dedicated to passionate cigar smokers, their interesting and diverse stories, and their favorite, sometimes unique places to smoke. I'm your host, Dan Zender, and this is part 2 of the series on the Tobacco Leaf shops here in Las Vegas. The first of the 2 remaining Tobacco Leaf shops we are visiting is the store in Henderson, also known as Green Valley, a suburb of Las Vegas. As Will Sabra mentioned in part 1, he opened this shop in 2004. It was the first cigar shop he opened on his own. The Henderson Tobacco Leaf is a small but friendly shop that the regulars love. It's missing a pit up front, but makes up for that with a nice lounge in the rear. When you walk in the door, the shop's cigar store Indian is there to greet you. As with Boca Park, there are plenty of choices when it comes to the pipes, pipe tobacco, and cigar accessories. The shop has a good stock of cigars to satisfy any taste. I spent many an evening in there back in the day selecting my next smoke. I always liked the lounge, a great place to kick back, talk to your fellow cigarers, and enjoy a stick. There were many great special cigar events back there through the years. In 2007, Will opened the Lake Mead shop in Summerlin. Again, the commercial storefront formula repeated itself. One of the first things that sets the Lake Mead shop apart from the other 2 is that there is a bar counter just inside the front door rather than a pit. But make no mistake, the bar and bar stools made a perfect linear pit. Again, plenty of cigars, pipes, and accessories can be found. I spent a lot of time in that humidor selecting cigars. Louis, who worked at the shop in those years, was an expert at finding that dusty box of older cigars and hide it away for me in a dark corner of the humidor. The lounge is that fantastic gathering spot. Again, spending many hours there swapping lies and sharing drinks. Many great times were had in that lounge. Now it's time to meet this episode's cigarer. Who is that mystery man that played for the Oakland Raiders in 1980 when they won the Super Bowl? So we're back at Boca Park Tobacco Leaf. And this episode's cigar is a great individual, but before I introduce him, I need to tell a little story. Years ago, when I first met him, we were smoking at the Lake Mead Tobacco Leaf, which you saw earlier in this video. And he was one of the regular cast of characters that hung out and back in the lounge. And we spoke on and off when we were in there together. And so one day after he and I were having a conversation, he got up and left. And there was a third person talking with us. And I mentioned to this other fellow, I said, God, he's really a nice guy. And the other fellow said to me, he goes, well, he played in the NFL. I went, no. Yeah, he was with the Raiders. Now, of course, knowing what I think about this philosophy of being a cigarer and getting to know everybody, I felt like a failure, in a discussion. But over the years, we've continued to stay in touch, and he continues to smoke cigars. And I'd like you to meet him today. His name is Leo Gray. Leo.
Nice to see you, Dan.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in and speaking to us today.
Thanks for having me.
So, born and raised in L.A.
Yep, Los Angeles.
Yeah, Mount Carmel High School, where
right.
I guess you excelled in football, obviously.
Yeah.
Baseball and track.
I played baseball and track, yeah.
Yeah. You went to University of Nevada, Las Vegas on a football scholarship.
Right.
So kind of a hometown boy, sort of.
Sort of.
And then
there's only 100,000 people out here when I came out here.
100,000.
Yeah, 100,000. Now we got, 2 million? Over 2 million?
Over 2 million,
yeah.
Then in 79, you signed with the Raiders.
Right, yeah.
So, anybody that knows the history of the Raiders and football in that era, some of the names of the people that you played with is just, it's a who's who, not only of the Raider history,
right.
but of football in general. I mean, you're talking Jim Plunkett, Gene Upshaw,
right.
Art Shell, geez, it goes on and on.
Right.
Just some Matt Millen,
Yeah.
Matusak. I mean, these were just giants of the era.
Right.
And I remember, because we're the same age. We have a lot in common age-wise, but that's where it ends. You had all the sports talent, and I did not. But
I got all the bruises and all that stuff too.
You got all the pain to show for it. But what was it like as a young man?
Going into the league,
and going into that environment.
It was scary at first, but as a kid growing up, you look at NFL games, and in the neighborhood, I came from a neighborhood for Van Ness and Slauson, not far from Crenshaw High School. And most of the kids would play at this park, Van Ness Park. And everybody would talk about going to the NFL. And, that was the whole thing. So we worked hard and continued to play. We created our own Pop Warner League because most of us couldn't afford to pay the $200 to go to Baldwin Hills and play where Warren Moon played and some of the other kids you heard about that are Hall of Famers or whatever. So we ended up starting a league based on getting equipment from Big Five Sporting Goods. We would go to the different stores and ask if they had some equipment they didn't need. And we ended up having enough stuff for about maybe 15 kids. And we started just playing against each other. We created our own little Pop Warner League. And that's how it started. But the whole time we would talk about, when I get to the NFL, I'm going to do this. When I get to the NFL, I'm going to do that. And so, it was just one of those things. You had a burning desire to play the game. And we just put the work ethic behind it. Because, it was a tough community. It was right there on the cuff of when the gang violence really got really bad. That's how I actually got fast. I tell people this all the time. They don't believe me, but I had to run through a Crip neighborhood, then a Blood neighborhood to get to my high school. And every day I'd come home, my mom would be like, "Why are you breathing so hard when you walk in here?" I'm like, "Mom, I got to run through 3 different neighborhoods to get to school and then run back home. And, they'll take my books and take everything from me. So I got to run." So I ended up getting fast just by running through these neighborhoods. So, it just was one of those things where every kid was growing up. That grew up in that neighborhood, wanted to play in the NFL.
I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to follow up on that in a little bit. I've got a question. That was the 1980 Super Bowl team,
right?
And I noticed when I saw a picture of the team, you were number 15, so you were sitting right next to Jim Plunkett,
exactly,
in the photo. Which again, when you look at that picture and you look at those faces on that team, it's like, and that was at that Super Bowl against the Eagles. What was this? 27-10. 10, right?
Yeah. And they were favored to win.
Yeah, and this was the first wild card team
exactly
to win the Super Bowl.
Yes,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And other teams have gone on and since then to do that, but you guys were the first.
Yeah.
And
we were supposed to be a bunch of misfits.
Yeah.
Journeymen from different teams. Plunkett had been drafted to New England after he got the Heisman out of Stanford. And then he stayed there. Then he went to San Francisco, got released, and then Al picked him up after that. So he had bounced around. And what they thought was going to be a great career from the start ended up being a great career on the tail end of his career.
Yeah.
So
it's there's a lot of stories and books that have been written about the Raiders in that period. That the book Badass, and I can't remember the author's name. But Al Davis was a giant in football, and you did an interview with Silver and Black a while back talking about you and Malcolm Barnwell, and I'm gonna put a link to that story. You can catch it in the details below, but please listen to that story. It's funny. So as a young man, you're in this rarefied era, right? First year in the league, and you're like, oh my God, what that must have been. What did your family and friends and everybody think about that, that experience for you?
Well, after I signed the contract, my dad and mom thought I was coming right back in a couple of weeks. They didn't think I would make the team.
Yeah.
I heard all the stories because my mom worked at Hughes Aircraft about, I could get you a job at Hughes Aircraft when you come back. Everybody had planned on me coming back. And I told all of them, I said, I'm not coming back. and I packed enough stuff for a year in a big duffel bag. I had 2 duffel bags full of stuff, and they were all like, "You overpacked." Yeah. And my dad worked with the county for 40 years. He was like, "I could get you a job in the county." I said, "No, you won't." I said, "I'm gonna play." So it was funny when I left, how they were thinking. And then my sisters were pretty much removed from sports. They didn't really look at it. So they didn't know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, thank goodness I had some other kids in the neighborhood. We probably had about 9 kids that played for that little makeshift Pop Warner team I talked about. And they got in the NFL too. We had like 9 kids out of this one park. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
And and so it was just, you had in your head, this could happen. And then we would go and work out with Isaac Curtis. There was some pros that would always come up to West Los Angeles Community College and work out. And we go out there and they let us train with them. So our confidence was built up where, okay, I could do this. That guy makes the same mistakes that I make. And so, you had more confidence than the average kid, going in. So after I got there, it didn't enter my mind about, coming back home or whatever. I had a shot and I was going to take advantage of it. So.
That's amazing. And again, I'm going to follow up on all these stories of your youth because I think, what you've done after your football careers is something I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So you left the Raiders in '81 and went up to the Canadian Football League. And played with a couple teams there, 3 teams.
I played with first I played British Columbia, Vancouver, the Lions, British Columbia Lions. Then I was traded to Toronto. I played the Toronto Argonauts. And then I was traded to Saskatchewan. And then that's when I knew it was time to give it up.
And you went to the Grey Cup.
Yeah, we played in the Grey, which is the Super Bowl of Canada.
Yeah.
So I
was,
was fortunate enough.
82?
That might have been 82. Yeah, I think 82. Yeah.
So you probably one of only a handful of people ever been to 2 Super Bowls, right?
No, it's
quite a few.
Yeah. People don't know it, but it was a bunch of guys that I know. Terry Greer, it's a few of them. It's it's
I know. I looked at some of the in preparing for this. I looked at some of the rosters of those teams, and heavy heavy U.S. presence in the leagues in those days.
Yeah.
So after you, as I'm sure you were a defensive back, and
I was a wide receiver when I came out of UNLV. And I was a wide receiver. I had never played defense. The third mini camp, Al Davis called me in, and one of the ball boys came up and said, "Mr. Davis wants to see you at the end of practice." So I'm looking like, Mr. Davis wants to see me. I said, "Okay, this is serious." So I walk in there. He said, "Sit down, Leo." I sat down. He said, "I love your work ethic. You're working hard out there. I love your speed," because I was one of those guys who ran a 4.3 back then. And they didn't have too many 4.3s back then. I think it was me, Malcolm Barnwell, and no telling what Cliff ran. He would never let you put him on the clock, but Cliff was blazing fast. Mm-hmm. And so Al loved the speed part of it. And so he asked me, he said, "Have you ever played defense?" And I looked at him and I waited for him to break a smile. I thought he was joking. He never did. So I said, "No, Mr. Davis, I've never." He said, "Pop Warner, high school, you never played defense?" I said, "I never played defense. I've always been a wide receiver." He said, "I think you could do it." He said, "With your speed and everything, and I got Willie Brown, a Hall of Famer. He'll work directly with you." He said, "Starting tomorrow, you'll have a black jersey in your locker with the rest of the defensive guys, and we're going to try it out." So it wasn't like it was a democracy with Mr. Davis. So
right.
The next day I was lining up trying to learn how to tackle somebody and learn how to backpedal. It was all new. So, at the highest level of pro sport, I had to learn and make an adjustment with a new position I had never played. But the confidence that Mr. Davis gave me and the coaching staff, you just knew. And then, the fact that I was a wide receiver, I could see things kind of before it happened, having been on that other side. And then the speed allowed me to catch up if I got beat, what they call closing on a receiver. So it became a challenge and it became fun. And so,
And that was Tom Flores. That was like his first or second year?
That might have been his second. Yeah, his second year. Yeah.
So, I mean, I can, like I said, I can only imagine what it was like for you. And football was a big part of your younger life. Yeah. And then, like you said, when the aches and pains and the bruises get to you, right? Everybody comes to that point where you make a decision that you can't do that. And you retired, what, 84, 85?
80, I think I went to 85, 86.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I left Went to the Redskins. I left Canada, Saskatchewan, went to the Redskins for about 3 games. And then they had a player that was out. So they brought me in, and I knew they brought me in until he got healthy.
Yeah.
He got healthy. I got released, went back to Canada, Saskatchewan for the last year.
Well, the way with COVID and things going, they might give you a call. They might give you a call next week.
They won't give me a call to be a ball boy. That's about it.
So post-football career, you did, you were involved in something called the Brotherhood Crusade. Can you tell us what that was? And because I read that you were heavily involved in fundraising for millions of dollars for community projects. And
it started out when I was playing. I would go back and I would volunteer with them. And they were doing a lot of the work, the same stuff that United Way was doing in the minority community. And a friend of mine I went to high school with, he was actually our valedictorian, one of my best friends. He was a director of administration there. So he asked me and about 3 of the other guys from Van Ness Park, when you guys come back, because United Way has all the NFL players doing commercials and this and that, you guys come back and work with the Brotherhood Crusade. You could do stuff in the off season, tax deductible. I mean, he brought all that up. So we ended up, that's how we started. And then it became one of those things where the passion, the fact that they were helping people get their 501c3 nonprofit status if they had a cause that was definitely needed in that community. And I just saw something that wasn't being done in other areas, and it became something that I was passionate about. And so they would allocate money to different human care service organizations around the Los Angeles County area. And they would get the money was raised from private and public workplace employees. So my job was to just go out and share the story, the mission of the organization and how it benefited the community. And then it just took off. I started doing that and I think I raised over $21 million.
Yeah, I was going to say, I read about it, millions of dollars that was raised in that effort.
And they had a low administrative cost, which, was good. And then the maximum amount of dollars went out to the different health, education, and welfare programs. And so, they started the first minority AIDS project. When Magic made his announcement and all that, they started the first program that addressed that social ill. And then they started Challengers Boys and Girls Club. That was one of the first programs for the Boys and Girls Clubs. Right. But people don't know about it because it was called Challengers, not just Boys and Girls.
Yeah.
So, they started that. So that was something that I bought into as well.
And then you started your own company.
Right.
So tell us about Professional Athletes and Associates. What is the focus of the company?
Well, motivational seminars. We were going in inspiring and motivating youth as well as adults in different workplaces and at different schools. So I had some of the largest workplaces in the county of Los Angeles. I had the LA Unified School District, which had, I forgot how many, 700,000 students. I mean, it was up there. They were the second largest school district in the country. Then I had all the employees, which was probably about 80,000. Then with the county, same thing. I had about 80,000 employees there, and then had other pockets of workplaces that were contracted out by the county. I had access to them too. So I had the Bank of America, Wells Fargo's. I had all these corporations where I would go in and just talk about the importance of peak performance training, just motivating them, from, top to bottom on, positive attitude and, the things that I went to get to the level, that highest level of playing pro ball and all that. I would share different stories, and I had a whole formula of how to get there, what it took, talked about the work ethic, talked about positive thoughts and images. I trained in martial arts for 20 years. And with that, the karate instructor that my sensei that trained me, Dominic Giacobbe, everything was based on the thoughts and images you took in. And he taught us as if a negative thought, a negative image was something that was cancerous and it would kill you. So, I had family members that had a problem being around me because if they brought up something negative, I was gone. It was like a plague. I had to get the hell out.
Yeah.
So, all of those things ended up, turning into something that I used as a platform when I went out and talked to the different workplace groups and the different students.
So there's this thread of both your football career and your post-football career with this working with youth. And which brings me back to the stories you told about as a kid, right?
Right.
So you work a lot. I know with the Raiders Foundation, you do a lot of work there, You do a lot of work with youth here
Yes.
in Vegas. Is that kind of born from your experience as a kid and those guys that were there?
Uh-huh.
And
Well, the ambassador program with the Raiders, I mean, it's building the brand here.
Mhm.
So they have us going out doing different things related to building the brand. The stuff that I do with the kids is for speed and explosiveness. I've always taught speed for the last 30 years because I ran. And I ran track as well. And then I was fortunate enough to be taught by a guy from Africa named Hully. And he had a whole different style of teaching than everyone else that I had been around. And we would go up to UCLA. I actually trained with Flojo, Greg Foster,
Oh, wow.
a lot of these Olympic athletes.
Yeah.
And I was pretty fast. I had qualified for national stuff and all of that, but my passion was football. But I would go out there and train with all of these great athletes in the off season. And so being out there, Hully just showed me a number of different things that made more sense as it related to body dynamics and body positioning, putting yourself in a certain position and having a rhythmic way of running. It was all based on a rhythm. And so I took bits and pieces from that. I took bits and pieces from martial arts. And I had all of these different things happening, and I ended up putting it down on paper and turned it into a program, and it ended up taking off with the kids. So every kid I could honestly say that I've had got faster. I mean, some places where, like, I was contracted out to go to like the Louisiana schools, Louisiana at Monroe, Louisiana at Lafayette, and do a speed training program for the girls' soccer teams. And some of the girls they thought were the slowest on the team ended up being the fastest because we showed them how to just get connected with the body being in the right positioning, and then it just took off. So,
And you still work, you still do
I
that.
still do that.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah. On a smaller scale, I still do.
Yeah.
I got a waiting list of probably about 20 kids, but I do what I can and I keep moving.
So let's segue into cigars.
Okay.
When you were with the Raiders, was there a lot of cigar smoking going on there with those guys?
When I first walked in the locker room, Art Shell, and I forgot who else it was. It was Gene Upshaw. Gene Upshaw, and it might have been Ted Hendricks. It was a little glass ashtray, and they were smoking. I had never seen that. I walked in, they had cigarettes, and they were smoking. I didn't see cigars until the Super Bowl. When we went to the Super Bowl, they were breaking out cigars. But you mostly saw guys smoking cigarettes and all that. I'm like, this is the NFL? I mean, it's supposed to be health conscious. These guys in here lighting up cigarettes, smoking them in butts all over the floor. I said, okay, this is pro football. Yeah.
I guess cigars weren't the thing they are now, except for celebratory type events.
It was a little different.
So when did you first start smoking?
The late 80s. Late 80s, I was, at that time, I was living in South Pasadena, California. And a friend of mine had opened up a cigar lounge in South Pass and invited me. I went over there one day and, of course, tried to inhale one and was coughing all over the place. And it just became one of those things. I met a lot of people, and you learn the different flavors and all of that stuff. And then the whole social part of it, just, I picked up on it, and it became something that I like to do. Then I was playing a lot of golf, and I had a close friend that I grew up with, and he was a cigar connoisseur. And he would always, hey, I got this for you. I want you to try this Padron. I want you to try this one. And so I'm trying all these different cigars and learning, how to get my palate in place so you could tell, the different, if it has the black, pepperish taste, or if it has that. And so it just became one of those things that was fun. And, on the golf course, you're playing and you got your cigar. You just made you feel better about yourself. And it was a way to relax. I could go in there, sit down and just cool out and not deal with the day-to-day stuff that you saw on the news or that you heard about in the community.
That's, of course, that's one of the main themes of this show is, the social aspect of smoking cigars and the fact that, that we have a lot in common as individuals, but you go into any cigar shop in the country, right? And you people from all different demographics and age groups and whatever are brought together over their enjoyment of the cigar. And if you take the time to talk to people, you get to find out about them, and it gives you that opportunity to just relax. And we in a previous episode was in Kansas City at a cigar shop named Fidel's, and it was the night after the election, and Nobody was talking politics. The TV wasn't even on, all the political drama. Everybody was, just having a great time talking and relaxing. And I think that social aspect is real important in today's world, certainly.
Right.
Well, Leo, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me today about your time in professional football and what you've done after. And I apologize for not knowing your history when we first met. I violated my own Cigarer rule, but you're a very modest individual, very not somebody that's going to talk about that kind of thing. And,
only around women.
I think the main point of that reason I told that story is, I can't tell you enough how important it is when you're having your cigar and you're relaxing. Talk to your fellow cigarers, those people that are passionate about cigars. Find out about them. I mean, it's a great part of this environment in cigar shops. And as I told the manager for this shop in Kansas City, Fidel's, he called it the last demilitarized zone in society.
Oh, yeah.
And I told him I was going to steal that, and it truly is. So, I can't thank you enough. I'm going to put a link to Leo's sites down in the details, some other things about the Raiders and some photos and stuff in the details. And so, Leo, again, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Thanks for watching part 2 of the 2-part series on the Tobacco Leafs here in Las Vegas. I hope you liked the interview with Leo Gray. He's a great guy and a great cigarer. If you enjoyed the episode, please help the channel grow by hitting that like button. Subscribe to the channel, and if you want to be notified of future episodes, hit the bell icon. If you're not sure who or what a cigarer is or what the cigarer's philosophy is all about, I encourage you to watch episode 1. I'll put a link to it at the end of this video. So, as I always say, take some time out of your busy life. Support your local tobacconist by going to your favorite cigar shop, grabbing a cigar, sitting down, lighting up, talking to your fellow cigarers, and remember to relax. We'll see you next time.